I was fast asleep in my cell, and it was sometime in the middle of the night, and suddenly my cell began to move. A major earthquake. There was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't run out because I'm in a cell. I couldn't run out. I couldn't run to safety or escape. One of the things that I held on to during my years in prison was that there was no fear of death.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. From 2007 to 2012, I was held in HM Prison Long Larton in Worcestershire, which is in the middle of England. Now, one year, I think it was 2007 or 2008, there was an earthquake that took place in that area, in that region. And earthquakes in England are pretty rare. I can't remember what the scale of it. It wasn't a major, massive earthquake, but it was an earthquake. So I remember that I was fast asleep in my cell, and it was sometime in the middle of the night, and suddenly my cell began to move. So I woke up and I realized what was happening. The whole cell is moving. I realized what was happening, and the cell was moving. And so I figured out very quickly that an earthquake is happening. And what I did then is I looked at the door, I just said my kalima, I said La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, and I went back to sleep. Because if it was an earthquake, if it was a major earthquake, there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't run out because I'm in a cell. I couldn't run out, I couldn't run to safety or escape. But if Allah had written that for me, that would be my moment of death, then so be it. Then let my last words be La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. And one of the things that I held on to during my years in prison was that there was no fear of death. When you are engaged in an act of worship, you should not fear death. The moment you are praying, or you're going to the masjid, or you are fasting, or you're going on Hajj or Umrah, or you're going to help someone, or you're going to visit someone who's sick, don't fear death in those circumstances. Because someone whose death comes to him whilst he is involved in a good deed or an act of worship, that is a good sign of acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So likewise, when you've been held unjustly in prison for many years, or even for a day, during that time, death was not something that I was afraid of. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Jum'ah in verse 8, Surah 62 verse 8, He says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Say, indeed, the death that you run away from, it will find you. Then you will be returned to Allah, the knower of the unseen and the seen, and He will tell you about that which you used to do. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِككُمُ الْمَوْتِ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Wheresoever you may be, death will find you even if you are in towers built up high. So one of the ways we get a good ending is by spending our lives by trying to do as many good deeds as possible. And if most of your life is spent in doing good deeds and acts of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that includes work, that includes earning a livelihood for your family. Because if you were to be stealing and then feeding your family with that money, that would be a sin. In the same way, if you're going out to work in the morning and you're spending the whole day working and feeding your family, that is worship. So by worship, I don't just mean going to the masjid and praying, But any good deed that you are doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more of those good deeds and actions that you do, visiting your parents or serving your parents or visiting the sick or helping those in need or standing up for justice, and reciting the Quran, and fasting, going on Hajj and Umrah, all of these deeds that you're doing, the more of these that you do, the more likely it is that your death will come while you are doing one of these. And on the contrary, the more sins that you do, the more acts that you do where you are away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more likely it is that your death will come when you are involved in something like that. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with a good ending, and may the last of our days be the best of our days, the day that we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود، أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود. إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد، فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد. أخي أنت حر